Thank you again. Thank you again for coming. This afternoon is week 4 of a 7-part series of the theme Designwatch, taken from the website of the same name. So this afternoon we're going to look at 4 topics which bear witness to the handiwork of the Almighty. They are: you are exceptional, the gravity and fine-tuning on which the earth operates, Darwin and the whale, the blue whale, and the smallest creature, a ladybird, that we see in our gardens. Now, what if I told you this afternoon that God has a plan and a purpose with this earth? Although we're surrounded by wars and famine and all sorts of evil things, this is only part of a plan that the Almighty has to restore this earth back to a condition of things like it was in the Garden of Eden. My name is John. I'm 73 years old and I'm a retired engineer. I'm a Bible student from a young age. I'm not trained. I don't have a degree in theology. But I am a believer in the Almighty who lives in the heavens above, that he created this earth and all things that we see. So we're talking about this theme of Designwatch. Now, as an engineer, I spent 50 years doing design, and so it's a topic that's very close to my heart. Things, buildings particularly, are all designed. They have to start from something. A house is a very simple thing to design and build. It may not be if you're involved in building your own house. It's a very stressful time. But in reality, building a house is very simple compared to something as complex as the Sydney Opera House. That took 16 years from the initial idea through to the construction. And sure, it came in well over budget, and there were all sorts of complications along the way. But belief in an almighty creator, yes, it does require faith. We have to acknowledge that the Lord is God. He made us and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. And when we come to this realisation and this acceptance as a matter of faith, and we believe in a creator, we find that God said right back in the Garden of Eden in Genesis chapter 1, "Let us make man in our image according to our likeness." And it was done in a matter of 6 days plus a day of rest. So does the appearance of design require us to accept a supreme creator and designer? The earth bears witness to a design. Nothing happened by chance. Everything that we see starts with an idea. You can't just say, "I'm going to design." Design needs an object. It needs something that you are going to work and develop. A teaspoon, a can opener, a watch perhaps, or even a Maserati. Contrast that with the theory of evolution. And it is still a theory. It's not a law like the laws of physics. Evolution is a theory, or some people might say it's a hypothesis, but it is still not a divine law like the laws of physics, which are unchangeable. Under the concept of evolution, all change is random and undirected. At no point in evolution can it pursue a particular path or work towards a specific objective. But God's design is seen at the very beginning when he created the heavens and the earth. So this afternoon, we're going to look at 4 aspects of the Almighty's design. And they're outlined in the booklet that we've handed out to you. They're also available on the website, items 9, 10, 11 and 12. And they are: you are exceptional, Darwin and the whale, gravity, an indisputable, unchangeable law of physics, and the small creature, the ladybird. So let's begin with the topic, you are exceptional. Now today we're encouraging children, aren't we? You are exceptional. You can be the best you can be. But in God's sight, we're all equal sinners. So let's go back a little bit, and if you want to look at part 2 of our presentation a few weeks back, you are exceptional. We looked at the accidental brain. Was it really something that came about by accident? The average healthy human brain contains 100 billion nerve cells. 100, it's a number that just defies comprehension. 100 billion. And it's said that a single human brain, and this is the result of a study in 2010, a single human brain has more information processing units than all of the computers on Earth. Now, I don't think things have changed too much in the 15 years since that study was done. But we're looking at the topic, you are exceptional. As humans, we are totally different from the animals. Totally different. We have the ability to think, resolve issues by analysing different options before we come to a decision. In the booklet, it makes mention of this gentleman, Johann Sebastian Bach. Without doubt, the greatest composer, short of the Almighty, the greatest composer that has ever lived. He produced a series of works, mainly for church music. He was a Lutheran back in the 1600s, early 1700s. And his work has stood the test of time. In 2018, a world-renowned pianist, Sir Andreas Schiff, played Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier, 24 Preludes and Fugues, Book One, for 2 hours. And he did that entirely from memory without a sheet of music in front of him. I would love to have that talent, but I'm afraid I'm a rank amateur. 1 year later, in the Royal Albert Hall, the same pianist did the same work, but Book 2, 24 Preludes and Fugues for 2 hours with no music. It just shows us the level at which skilled people can get to in the ability to play music. I'd just like to play you an excerpt of what he played. We'd love to be able to do that, even just book one, even play one of Bach's preludes at that level. 2 hours without music in front of him, and you can see there the complexity of the music. Now, in fact, that was only the keyboard or the piano version, because the organ version also has a fifth line for the feet. So 2 hands plus 2 feet, 2 hours. Bach had quite a complex personal life, but he made that statement. Music's only purpose should be for the glory of God and the recreation of the human spirit. Unfortunately, today, music is to please the flesh. So it's worth remembering what the motive was. So all of us, even if we can't play to that level of ability, we are exceptional in the sense that the Almighty has given us the skills and abilities in different areas. Some of us are good and skilled at one area, another in other areas. And we all have strengths and weaknesses, but we can use our strengths to please the Almighty and overcome our weaknesses to the best of our ability. We are unquestionably a unique species. We are capable of apprehending difference between right and wrong, good and evil, right and improper conduct, and all based on the Word of God. What does David say in the Psalms? For you created my innermost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. So let's move now to the next topic, which is gravity. The Earth's gravity, when we throw an object up, it always falls to the ground, where spacecraft and everything is attracted back to the Earth. The discovery of the laws of physics in terms of gravity were not put into practice really until Sir Isaac Newton in the time of Bach, around about the mid-1600s, early 1700s. And the well-known story of the apple falling from the tree. But Sir Isaac Newton also understood light was made up of 7 colours. He was able to explain that. He had a wonderful mind and could develop the mathematic laws of calculus, which all of us remember, I'm sure, from our senior years. He understood the 3 laws of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, which are the foundation of modern physics. But Sir Isaac Newton was also a believer in a creator. He believed firmly in the existence of a God. He believed in the return of Christ to the earth to establish a kingdom. He believed that the Jewish people would return to their land, and he rejected the doctrines of the Trinity and the immortal soul. Very interesting. Insofar as prophecy, Sir Isaac Newton understood in big picture terms the books of Daniel and the book of Revelation. And he foresaw that the book of Revelation related to the Catholic Church and the Roman system. He believed that the Antichrist represented the Catholic Church. He believed that the 1260 days of Daniel chapter 12 should be calculated from AD 800 when the Pope crowned Charlemagne, which would mean that Christ would return in the year 2060, still a fair way off. Time will tell. But more importantly, he did not believe in a catastrophic destruction of the earth. Rather, a period of plagues, wars, and society decay, followed by the return of Christ and the establishment of a time of peace and harmony. Aren't we living in those sort of days today? Here's some of the other inventions and the theories of Sir Isaac Newton. He had the concept of an orbital cannon that, if shot at the right angle from the Earth, would go into orbit. Sound like a spaceship? That's exactly what it is. And today, Elon Musk is sending up hundreds of satellites to form the Starlink network for our internet. Isaac Newton invented cat doors to stop cats scratching at the doors, the old wooden doors. The reflecting telescope and many other things. He had a very inquiring mind. He understood the universe.
This is an orrery, a mechanical model of the solar system used to demonstrate the relative movements of planets and moons. The term orrery became associated with these models after John Rowley, an instrument maker, created one for Charles Boyle, the 4th Earl of Orrery, around 1712. Isaac Newton's theory of gravity provided the scientific framework for understanding the movements of planets and the solar system, which in turn fueled the demand for orreries. Orreries typically use a system of gears and clockwork mechanisms to simulate the orbital motions of planets around a central star, usually the Sun.
What a wonderful model that is. Made by hand, it wasn't stamped out by a machine, 300 years ago. It certainly shows the ability to which man can rise to make complex pieces of machinery, and the understanding that Sir Isaac Newton had of the planets revolving around the sun. That beautiful model was on display in Newton's laboratory. And somebody came to visit him and they said, "That's an amazing piece of machinery. Who made it?" Newton said, "Nobody." The visitor responded, "You obviously didn't hear my question. Who made this wonderful model?" Newton replied, "This thing is but a puny imitation of a much larger system whose laws you know, and I'm not able to convince you that this mere toy is without a design and a maker. Yet you profess to believe that the great original from which this design is taken has come into being without either designer or maker. Now tell me, what sort of reasoning do you reach such an incongruous conclusion?" Job went through a lot of troubles. He's a character in the scriptures in the Old Testament about the time of Abraham. He asked the question, why? To which there is no answer. God challenged Job, "Gird up your loins like a man. I will question you, and you shall declare to me." Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. It's not for mortal man to challenge the great Creator. So now we move to the next topic, Charles Darwin and the whale. Charles Darwin, very well known as the originator for the theory of evolution. He said this, and he wrote in his very first edition of Origin of the Species, "I see no difficulty in a race of bears being rendered by natural selection more and more aquatic in their structure and habits, with larger and larger mouths, until a creature was produced as monstrous as a whale." Really? To any logical mind, is there any sense or any sense of reasoning in that statement? And I think at the time of Darwin, he must have realised how foolish he was making himself look, because the next edition of his book, he removed that paragraph. And if you buy a copy today, or if you Google search it, you'll find that that paragraph has been taken out.
Museums everywhere have displays claiming that whales evolved from some type of land mammal that walked on 4 legs millions of years ago. But if this idea was based upon solid evidence, you would think they would be able to tell you what kind of creature whales actually evolved from. But museums everywhere have different supposed ancestors for whales. Darwin believed whales evolved from bears. The California Academy of Sciences claims they looked like hyenas. The Tokyo Institute of Science says it was a hippo-like creature. The University of Michigan says it was like a cat. The Carnegie Museum says it was like a wolf. The Melbourne Museum says it was like a deer. And the American Museum of Natural History says it was like a lion. It sure sounds like some serious guesswork.
For any reasonable logic mind can see that the whale demonstrates design by a great creator. That when every museum cannot even agree on what it might have been at the beginning, it only makes the theory of evolution less and less likely. The whale is the work of a master engineer and designer. There's beauty and purposeful integration of every part in such a wonderful creature. The Apostle Paul wrote this to the Romans: "Since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, been understood from what has been made, so that we are without excuse in our understanding." In the book of Genesis, it says, "And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly every moving creature that hath life, and fowl that can fly above the earth in the open firmament of the heavens. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind." So now to our final. The small insect named as the ladybird. So small that unless you've got good vision, you probably wouldn't even see it on a leaf in your garden. How can such a small insect fly, but then be able to fold up its wings and conceal them under a shell? How is that possible unless it's the work of a divine creator? In 2017, some Japanese scientists wanted to understand how all these wings fold up. You've seen man's crude attempts on aircraft carriers, where some jet fighters fold the wings up so they can be parked underneath the deck. So these Japanese scientists removed one of the wings and put a clear coating in its place to try and understand how it all happened. Surely the hand of a master creator, a master designer, is at work in something as simple or something as small as the ladybird insect. Does it not bear testimony to the childhood hymn that many of us would have sung? All things bright and beautiful, all things great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. So this afternoon, we've looked at just 4 aspects of a grand design of the heavens and the earth and everything that lives on this planet. And we've seen the master at work, right from the very beginning, everything after its kind. Albert Einstein, very well-known scientist of the late 40s, early 50s, 1950s, said, "The more I study science, the more I believe in God. There are only 2 ways to live your life. 2 ways. One is through as though nothing is a miracle, and the other as though everything is a miracle." We've tried to show you this afternoon that everything is a miracle. The work of a divine creator, the design of the heavens and the earth. We've tried to show you how that each individual is exceptional and has the ability to reason and to use your talents to please our Creator. We've shown to you, or tried to show to you, that a simple ladybird has tiny wings that can fold up like origami. We've shown how a large mammal like the blue whale could only have come about by a divine hand. And we've shown you that just like those Oreo represents the universe. And even though Sir Isaac Newton's visitor was sceptical, Newton showed to him clearly that everything came about from design. We said at the beginning, what if we were going to show to you that all these things represent a better time ahead? The time is coming, says the Almighty, when the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. And the earth will be restored to a time such as it was in the Garden of Eden. There's several statements on the last 2 pages of your booklet. And unfortunately, First one, faith every day. We believe and we have faith every day that we're going to get home safely. Religious faith is belief in an Almighty. It takes just as much faith to believe in a Creator, and it takes more faith to believe that things came about by accident. The evidence for Christianity was borne out by the followers of the Christians in the early first century. There's a statement in the book of Corinthians: if Christ is not risen, then our preaching is empty and your faith is also empty. If Christ is not risen, your faith is futile, you are yet in your sins. And the early Christian believers were so convinced, they were eyewitnesses to the resurrection of Christ. They were so convinced that they were prepared to put their life on the line. And we know that many suffered in the Colosseum and other areas. So friends, thanks for coming. We hope we've helped show to you that the earth is evidence of design. If you'd like more information, you can go and access that website that's on the screen. Or if you'd like to know further information locally here in Brisbane, you can go to our website, knowyourbible.com.au. So that concludes everything that we want to talk about. Next week, God willing, the next 4 topics: the case for the Creator, the perfect copy, a cascade of hormones, and in king's palaces. Have we shown to you that there's something in it for you? Christ will return to establish a worldwide kingdom and restore the earth back to a condition like it was in the Garden of Eden. So we'd invite you to stay afterwards, have a chat, ask any questions that you might have of any of our members, and we'd be more than pleased to welcome you and to help to show to you the wonderful hope that is outlined in the Scriptures. But we're going to conclude then just with a word of prayer. You may remain seated again.